Then
better.
I'd almost have to. I sure like the new webpage, they've done a really good job. Few little hiccups still, but.
Oh, he's giving thumbs up, okay.
Icons going forward.
Ready?
You did
Try.
You
Okay.
did the best you could have done. You did awesome.
So be gentle with me, guys. This is the first time I've driven, so be gentle.
Tell me when we're ready.
He's giving a thumbs up.
Yep.
Yeah, thumbs up. You're good to go.
Okay, the Citizens Involvement Committee meeting for October 2nd, 2023 is called to order. Dennis, would you call the roll, please?
Sure. Kanema, Linda,
Present.
I'm present. Caulfield, Dan,
Here,
Elyville, Carla.
Here, and Dee Dee's here too online.
I see her online, but she's, okay, we know she's here. Bob, you mentioned that Dave Hunt is with Gaffney Lane. Is that true? Am I just gonna say it's no rep, or we're just waiting for confirmation?
I think we're waiting for confirmation.
Okay. No rep at Hazel Grove, Hillendale. Josh?
Here.
Sarah?
Here.
Denise is on Zoom.
I'm here.
Hi.
Hi.
Will is not here.
No.
Steve is here. Yes, yes, he is. I see him. Bob. Emily is on Zoom.
Hello.
Hello. Bonnie at South End, not non-voting. Is Bonnie here? Bonnie, no. No Bonnie. Tower Vista, no rep. And Two Rivers. I want to interject something in this little thing. We had the misfortune of hearing some bad news last week. A good friend with CIC and the city, Byron Boyce, passed on the 28th. And condolences to Lorraine, his wife, a very good friend, a hiking buddy, and will be missed. And I just wanted to bring his name up and put it into the record that he was a very good friend and a very important asset to CIC and the works that we do at CIC. Thank you. I'm done.
And thank you for that, Dennis. That's very true statements. Couple of things on the agenda. Number one, Chamber of Commerce will not be having a presentation. I found out Victoria Meinig has now taken a different position. And our new executive, whose name is Jonathan Owens, already had commitments for this evening, so he wouldn't be able to make it. So we'll get him another time. Also, the McLoughlin Boulevard Enhancement, item 2, Christina Robertson-Gardiner had a family emergency, and so she won't be able to present tonight. We do have an addition, though. Our finance director, Matt Zook, is here, and I'll have him come up and answer any budget questions that you may have. And then the last item I have to correct, down here at the very bottom, for some reason, elections got put in there. And we're not having any elections tonight, so I don't know where that came from, but anyway, those will happen in January. Does anybody else have any corrections to the minutes? The agenda, excuse me. Okay, so we'll move right on ahead, and I think we'll have Matt come up and address any questions on the budget that you may have.
Want to please pass that down?
Cosmic.
I like it.
It's set.
red lights off, right?
Sounds like Halloween.
Basically, just to kick it off a little bit, I asked our finance director to come today to answer any questions on the budget. I know there have been some lingering questions. What you have before you is the most recently updated spreadsheet. Bob and Matt and I worked together a little while ago to completely recreate the budget spreadsheet for the CIC. The old one is completely gone. This is new. Everything's working right, much more simplified as well. And this is up to date as of earlier today. So I wanted you all to see that. We will provide this update monthly for the CIC. It'll be in your meeting packets moving forward. And again, Matt was gracious enough to stick around tonight to answer any questions should they arise. And I'm going to be working on a tech support issue here. So.
I'm still trying to get a meeting together with Adam and the mayor and I to resolve the question of truly what the CIC budget has been, because in the past we got the $26,000, but each of you were working off of your what shows here as a prorated budget. For example, Kenema, $361 a year. So those are the figures you were all working off of, is your individual prorated budget, which, if you added all those figures up, came to $29,600 and some dollars. So what you're actually using as your budget, not the city's budget, but your budget, really amounts to, again, as I've said before, you look at the total over here, you were using a $29,600 and some dollar budget per year. They've raised it to $30,000. So in all practical purposes, for what you individually have been using for your neighborhood budgets, has not had an increase. So I'm still working on trying to get that resolved and get more money, practical money, to the CIC.
How are the dollars divided up between every neighborhood? Is it the amount of meetings we have per year? I'm just looking at Kenema, we have $361 a year.
We're trying to figure out a video issue, and I think he's working on the back, but you should be able to continue.
Oh, so how do they figure this out? Because we have more than 3 meetings a year in Kenema. I mean, if we get $361 a year and have $121 for the rest of the year, and what's in October?
Well, again, that goes back to our history of having to borrow from the inactive neighborhoods. You have a very good example here. You've already spent $240 of your $361. It doesn't add up. You can't do it. So if all the neighborhoods were active, we'd have to be going back to the city for more money. And they have indicated to me in the one city commission meeting that they would, and Mr. Conkle's words, more than likely allow us more money. More than likely. So I'm sure that it will come to that, I'm sure. But, you can just look at these figures right now, like Elyville has already spent $1,000 of their $3,000 budget.
And we only had one postcard.
Yeah,
One postcard.
That was a postcard,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's only one.
McLoughlin has used 1,200 of their 3,700, and I think they have scheduled 6 meetings a year. But as I said in the past, some of us may have to reduce the number of meetings you have a year, but that's a hard decision to make, of course. So thank you very much for this spreadsheet, though, Matt. It's more realistic, and of course you've got the neighborhoods alphabetically arranged. which is a little easier to read across the board.
Well, I had to practice the alphabet in order to do that, but can I answer your question, Linda, about it might not be apparent, but there's the top line that has the neighborhood association names, and then the addresses below that. That's the number of addresses. And you may be familiar with this, so I apologize if I'm insulting you, but to answer your question, the $30,000 is divided up, prorated by the number of addresses that we have in our GIS database for mailing. The problem that Bob alluded to earlier, when I got Bob's spreadsheet for the first time, I had not been, that was not a spreadsheet I was maintaining. I think that was from a different staff member. And there was an error in the formula as to the way the prorated budget for each neighborhood association was divided. So while the budget was, and I've got the history here, but the budget for the last, currently for the biennium of 2023-24 and 24-25 is 30,000, as Bob alluded to. Previously, the budget was 26,000 a year for the last 4 years. Going back to 2017 and 2018, it was 29,000, and then prior, 1 year prior to that, it was 26,000. Not sure why the bump to 29 and the back down to 26 wasn't here during that time, but the allocation error on that spreadsheet has been corrected on this spreadsheet. So what was happening was the total budget for the entire CIC was 26,000, but the allocation, as you mentioned, was 29,000 and some change. So it looked like had every neighborhood association spent what was allocated across that top line, it would have been over budget. It did not, the CIC did not spend all of its money, but hopefully that answers your question as far as what the historical budgets have been. And I can, put that into print if it's necessary, or I'm looking at a screenshot of my accounting system. But anyways, hopefully that answers at least two of the questions I've heard, and I'm willing to answer any others.
Whoever does this would perhaps want to look at every neighborhood's bylaws, because they're all different, and find out how many meetings we have a year. And then say, okay, Kenema has 195 people times 5 meetings, that's the dollar amount. And I think most of our money is always spent on postcards.
Bob, didn't you do something like that? Hand out a sheet for everyone's neighborhood association and kind of figure out how many average meetings were happening per year, and then do that number crunch?
Well, over the years, the most equitable way to allocate the money seems to have been not by the number of meetings, but by the number of households in each neighborhood. And then the neighborhood has to adjust their budget by that. Like, for example, the lowest number of meetings is 3 per year by Park Place. And then it goes on up to 6 meetings at least by the McLoughlin Neighborhood Association. And some of them are 5 meetings. So it varies depending on the history of how many meetings each neighborhood has had. And in the past, the amount of money that we were allocated was enough to cover those 6 meetings per year, because printing costs were not what they were, and paper costs were not what they were, and postage was not, as much as it was then. Times have changed. And I really would have difficulty basing the neighborhood budgets on the number of meetings per neighborhood, because that would be rewarding a neighborhood for having more meetings, which would encourage other neighborhoods like Park Place that has only 3 to say, well, they're gonna get that much money, why don't we have 6 meetings a year? And thus, then the budget just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So I've rolled this around in my head, I don't know how many times. You all know how much time I've spent on the budget. And I still think that the households per neighborhood is the fairest way to allocate the budget. You'll notice at the bottom, I asked to have notes made on how each expenditure was, and then in the future, if we get to the point where we have to start borrowing from inactive neighborhoods, then I asked them to put a note down on which neighborhood it was borrowed from, how much, and who the borrowing neighborhood was. So whoever is the chair in the upcoming periods, and all of you will be able to have a more accurate accounting of how the expenditures are made.
How often do you update the households per neighborhood?
That's a great question. We did it for the first time in preparing it we met with Bob. Bob and Jared and I met, and I refreshed it. It didn't change a lot, but it did, change by, some households or some neighborhood associations, I don't know, 5, 10, whatever. It was updated though just recently based on the mailing list that our geographical information systems department prints out for the mailings. So it's fresh as of today. And we talked about that. It's really a matter of, in my opinion, just choice. It can be done monthly, but or really it could be done annually. Obviously, you don't want to have a neighborhood's, allocation shift too often in the middle of a year. I mean, it's just a few households though, honestly, at this point.
We got 600 houses being built in our neighborhood.
Yeah, you're in no, you're not Caulfield. I know, I live in the Caulfield neighborhood.
Park Place.
Park Place. Yeah. So honestly, that's a policy. That should be a discussion as to how you see, if you see that kind of a drastic increase, there should be, basically, if you had that much of an increase, you'd be robbing from some of the other neighborhood associations to fund that growth. If you're going to stick to the $30,000 budget.
Well,
I think there's some conversation that would need to be had there to make it reasonable.
I think for all practical purposes, though, if this was changed per biennium, it'll take a couple of years or more for 600 homes to be built. I think that the biennium figure would be close enough, I think. And then if there was a drastic change, then we'd come back to the city commission or our fellow CIC members, say, we need the money, please give us the money.
I think another question that the CIC audit, a question that I've had that I don't know is really official in policy, it could be already, but the allocation from the neighborhood associations that aren't active, you mentioned that if there's another association that needs more because they have another meeting or they want to have another meeting, you might take it from, say, a neighborhood association that's inactive. Just take, say, Two Rivers, for example, if that's inactive. I think there should be some discussion about how that's reallocated. If I were in a neighborhood association that, was static, and then another neighborhood association said, I need to borrow another $500, I want something from Two Rivers, do you just give it to them directly, or do you reallocate across all the active neighborhood associations? And at what point do you decide that, an inactive neighborhood association is gonna be inactive during the biennium? I mean, they may be and you would know this better than I, they may be actively working towards maybe being up and running by the second year of the biennium. And right now, Two Rivers, for example, has $1,115. Well, if you've reallocated that already, then what do they do? So just thoughts I've had as I'm preparing this and looking at it, and I'm wondering, if those are discussions you've already had as a CIC. It's really your call as the committee as to how you use that 30. And then I think that would be an important part of the discussion to have in place before you were to go back to the city commission and ask for a budget increase, because they would obviously want to see that you've used, 30,000 and how. And those are just some thoughts I've been thinking through as I've been preparing this, and just wondering how that has worked in the past and how it might work in the future.
Well, that's a good point, which I hadn't thought about, was if we've used half of an inactive neighborhoods association's funds, and then they become active, they might just automatically right away be short the amount of funds. So did you say that you could, if a neighborhood needed to borrow, let's say $600 from another neighborhood association, they came up short at the end of the year, you could, let's say we had 3 inactive neighborhoods, so you could allocate 200 taken out of each of those inactive neighborhoods?
I think I suggested that as a concept, and it can be done multiple ways. I think the discretion is really up to the CIC. I've watched what was done in the past, at least in the past year when Christina was monitoring the spreadsheet, and I've seen other neighborhood associations go over, and obviously the inactive neighborhood associations provide that buffer. But I wasn't aware of any methodology or concept as to how that was allocated. So it's really, there's several different ways you can skin that cat, and I don't know how you want to do that. I think some pre-thought by this group at this early stage of the 2-year budget might be worth doing. Only how the different inactive neighborhood associations are, what the pulse is of those. So, I know you've been working to try to get some of those, inactive ones going. I don't know where they're at. So you might have a concept that it doesn't even look like anybody's interested in starting a certain inactive neighborhood association, thus you can reallocate it. And then do you reallocate it to the neighborhood association that needs it or asks for it, or do you reallocate it across all of the remaining active to do it fairly, if you will? So those are just some choices, I think, that, and I don't really have a preference as long as, everything's under the 30,000. It's just some equity thoughts to consider that as a committee. Yeah. And at what, how do you do it, and at what point do you do it? So.
I just have to say, because I've already just done one mailing and I'm over $1,000, and I have a lot of infill in my neighborhood as well. Mm-hmm. Maybe not quite as much as Park Place is getting, but I'm going to have a lot more condensed living in my neighborhood as it's growing. And one mailer, I've tried to be a good steward of that money and try to condense the mailers to 4 a year. The only reason we do 4 is because we have a ice cream social that we have to announce. So I try to be a good steward of it. I try to even go down to 3 if I can, and we do 6 meetings a year. And we cut one or two this summer because they don't get attended as well. The other thing is now I'm going to say something, and I don't expect you to say anything because I don't want to put you in a bad position. But I was watching the budget meetings, and I'm not going to expect you to say anything because I don't want to put you in a bad position. But, the budget committee was bringing up a Forester. They're bringing up a deficit to parks. We know the CIC needs money. And yet, there's a lot of no's on things because I was really excited about having a Forester too. Yet we're hiring positions that are very expensive, and what I'm concerned about is why don't we analyze what we currently have and what the job roles and responsibilities are before we add another salary and all these different parts of the city need more money. That's what I think, because, we're hiring an assistant city manager, and they're gonna make anywhere between right below 140,000 a year, up to almost 170, not quite, but shy of that. So I would like to see some money reallocated and rethought out and really kind of examined. But that's just my statement. I don't expect you to say anything, but thank you.
Sure.
Dan?
Yeah, on the assistant manager position, I did a little search on the internet, and the average city pays $115,000 to $120,000 for the city manager. So we essentially would have two city managers now that would be triple that amount of money. I think our manager needs more people to do some work for him and gather information and so forth, but I'm along with Cara on that one. Thank you.
Sarah?
I have some thoughts about how we might be able to allocate the defunct neighborhoods money more fairly to allow for reserves to be held for them. If we just took it quarter by quarter, if we're in the first quarter here, then there's a quarter of the defunct neighborhoods money available. Then next quarter, we open up another if we don't have any active neighborhoods, building from there. That keeps the reserves available. I mean, I'm using 4 because that seems to be the average number of meetings that neighborhoods have, and so dividing it into quarters makes some sense there. Just a thought.
Steve?
So, with a lovely spreadsheet, any way you want to cut and dice, and we can say, okay, we'll take the money out of the non-functioning neighborhoods based on the number of housing units by month, and it's easy. So whatever we want to do is going to be possible. We just see what we need to do.
Well, it's worked well in the past. Nobody I've talked to seems to know how it's worked. But it's worked. So
Yeah.
from our end here, we don't really care how it works. Who the heck
Nope.
cares as long as it works? Dan, yes.
Yeah, marketing, I think we should be marketing for all the neighborhoods associations. So we want to get the other associations to have people come to meetings to represent their areas. And the city now I reduced my mailing by over 700. There's 700 citizens that signed up for direct email, so they got my brochure via email. So I reduced our budget. So my thing for me in our Caulfield, our postage will go down because we're doing more direct mailing and doing more other things. And our last meeting, we had 29% more people at our meeting. And we sent out another one of the big colored flyer things. Didn't get lost in mail and people paying attention to it. And we have a lot of new neighbors that are moving into those new apartments.
Well, great job, Dan. That's wonderful. You've been able to do that. That's pretty substantial.
Well, Jared over there was a big help. He's done a lot, and he can really get us connected to more people along with our, we gotta get a whole marketing thing together, and this man does a really hard job, and I think he's gonna make us go places. Thank you.
I appreciate that, thank you. I do need to add a point of clarification, however. You're giving me a little too much credit. That initial group of 700 was the 700 names of 700 email addresses of people who had signed on to the website to pay utility bills online. And we were able to do an initial email to that group of 700 saying, if you want to receive additional emails, please click here and subscribe. I can't hit them up a second time because then we risk getting spam reports and blacklists and all kinds of things that'll make IT get very mad at me. So I don't have the total subscriber list. It's slowly growing. We've done a little bit of marketing on top of those initial emails from some of the groups that I've worked with. As we move forward, I've got some other thoughts if we can include, the sign up QR codes and links on the mailers. If you want to do a flyer in the utility bills to the entire city, I've already got a flyer that has the link and QR code for every neighborhood on there. So if we want to send that out to all the utility, through all the utility bills, it'll be another way to get some good eyeballs on it. There is a cost of that. It costs me about $1,000 every time I put something in to the utility bill, but that is another possibility there, as well as trail news, and the occasional social media
that
post
would
as
go
well.
out to all the neighborhoods, and that would be then a deduction from our $30,000.
That $1,000, yes. Yeah. If that is something that you want to move forward with, yes.
Let's discuss that a little bit. Dan, go ahead.
Well, that mailing in $1,000, we can do an 8.5 by 11, and I believe we could probably do two sides, where we have all the associations with what the points that they need to get to their customers on, and to me, it sounds like a cheap deal and a really good deal.
Carla?
One thing about it too is I've noticed with my postcards, Dan makes a point. A lot of times, I love my mail guy. He's one of my favorite guys. But the problem is they always give the postcards with the coupons, and it's always in the coupons. And the mailers are so small that they either fall out or they just get thrown away. I think a lot of people aren't seeing them. They can fly so easily, and a lot of our mailmen go by foot. So that's a lot of the problem. And I know our mailmen work hard. I'm not dissing anything. I think it's for how small and little they are, they're getting lost.
So I just did a quick little ad, and it's about $8,600 in the defunct neighborhoods of money that's sitting there. So $1,000 for one send out in the utility bill to do all that would be a pretty good deal, and we have that extra money from those other neighborhoods.
My question is, what would the message be that we would be getting out?
My suggestion would be, excuse me, my suggestion would be just something very simple, similar to the display/flyer that I created for the National Night Out event. It was just a one sheet with a link or a URL and a QR code of each of the neighborhoods' subscription sign-up pages. And then if you want to go double-sided, we can maybe put on the back just a calendar of each neighborhood association's upcoming meetings. So there's two ways they can get the information. They can sign up for the emails. There's something there on the back as well if somebody doesn't want to do the whole subscription thing, but it would help us get that word out there in both ways.
And then how does each individual neighborhood get the emails that signed up for their neighborhood? Is that you that sorts them out?
That is me. I can't source those out. Again, it's the whole privacy laws and so forth. Basically, what happens is when you're doing a mailing, you can also give me the same information, and I'll send the email out via our distribution system, MailChimp, just like we kind of facilitate the postage mailings for you. I would handle that as well.
When are you going to be starting to do that?
I've already done it a little bit. We've done a few of the tester emails saying, I think for Caulfield, I think I did it for McLoughlin as well. I'd have to look at my files, but I sent that initial saying, if you want more, subscribe here. And then we've only done one mailing, so I haven't had a chance to send them an additional thing, but
Gotcha.
It's slowly growing, but yeah.
Okay, because we had just done our Hillendale mailing, and I got a physical postcard, even though I had signed up on the mailing list, so that's why I was wondering.
That's a good question. I was going to ask the same thing. Are you sending a postcard as well to the people that have signed up for email, or are you saving the money?
And the goal is to be able to do that. It's a little bit, can sometimes be a challenge in reconciling the two. But as we're trying to develop the process, that is my goal, is to make that happen. Because that's the whole point of the email, is to save you money. So if we can go that route, that's how we want to go. I'm just trying to discover the mechanism for it.
The coordination for something like that is mind-boggling to me.
My mind is boggled at times, yes.
Steve?
So is there any way to use the email list that the neighborhood currently has and merge that with an address
If you,
and
I'm
make
sorry.
that happen?
If you provide me with those emails, I can add them to the distribution list that I'm creating. And again, there should be a way that I can reconcile those addresses with physical addresses and pull those off of the mailing lists.
So yes, we can,
Theoretically,
we can
yes.
get the emails, but the real crux is to get rid of the postcard.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say get rid of it entirely.
No,
but I
we
mean,
want to get rid of it to the addresses
Yes,
that
yes.
currently have an email.
That's my goal, yes. There will be some ongoing maintenance with that as people move and come in and out, so, but yes, that is the goal, is if we have an email address that they've subscribed, then we can remove them from the physical mailing and hopefully save a little bit.
But those emails stay with you. We can't have them
Correct.
individually.
It-
See,
it-
that's a downside
Yeah.
because now we have to ask Jared to do some more work.
Well, the good news is it'll be the next engagement specialist. It won't be me.
It won't be you.
Once we
Well,
get that person.
yeah.
But no, we will coordinate that. And again, it's because of privacy restrictions that if we get those email addresses, I can't provide those out at all.
So is it possible for us to provide them to you?
Yes. Because the whole thing is, presumably, you haven't gone out and collected the emails via an online subscription form. It's more probably, I'm guessing, like a sign-in sheet and they put in
Right.
your email. There's no actual opt-in thing. What I will have to do, though, is I would have to probably, you would have to notify them that they're gonna be getting the emails from the city, and I would have to actually give them a chance to double opt-in if we want to avoid any potential spam reports and whatnot. It has gotten continually more difficult to do these types of things as more and more laws to protect, rightfully so, to protect consumers and their privacy, but it just puts more hoops that we have to jump through.
The method that we've used to get the emails is our general meeting sign-in sheets. And those would also, hopefully, the people would include their address, so that you would be able to pair up the email with the physical address and then remove the address from the mailing.
You know what I could do as well, if we want to go this route, and I think I did this when I recreated that sign-in sheet for your last meeting, is I can create something for each of the neighborhoods, a sign-in sheet that'll include just, a checkbox, allow the city to send me meeting updates. And so that we have their name, email address, and physical address. So again, hopefully we can pull those off. And that way we can have them opt in that way, and I don't have to worry about the secondary opt-in process.
Maybe we could do that at our
May I
next
say
general
something?
meeting.
I don't know how to raise my hand. Mr.
Oh.
Didi, can I say something?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, good. A lot of times people move, but they keep the same address. Your email address, some people move across the United States and they'll still keep their same email address, but you've lost the resident that might be at the house. That's just a thought.
No, that is one thing that we'll have to keep an eye on to do some maintenance. My hope is that as GIS updates their side of things, I can reconcile any changes there and maybe have to pull an address back on the distribution list. It's gonna be a process, and it's gonna be a bit of a learning process, but hopefully we're gonna get there sooner than later.
Yeah. I think it would be appropriate to have a motion and a second and a vote on authorizing the funding of the information in the utilities bill.
I motion that we have the funding go to the utility bill for the neighborhood associations. Is that putting it correctly?
For the mailing.
Yeah, for the mailings, yes.
I will second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's been approved, so
And
forge
just,
ahead, Jared, with that.
I will get you a draft of something soon to get approval.
Okay, and then the next possible mailing, whatever that might come out to be. It'd probably take a couple of months.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can get something, well, it would have to be for November's, because obviously October already went out. But if you want to get it sooner than later, we can put something together for November's utility bill.
Oh, that's soon. Oh, okay. Good.
May I ask another question?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, and this is really funny, I seem to be in real time. But the question, I got sidetracked, I'm sorry. I got sidetracked. Just the fact that I'm hearing this so well at this meeting, and I'm in real time. Why can't we do this at our regular meetings? Why can't we hook up to Bluetooth so I can hear everyone as clear as I am here?
If I could
And I'm in
recreate
real
the series of
time
events that
without
made
the
today
delay.
work, I would.
So, you know, I mean, that sidetracked me from, I used to get my city list of emails of all the upcoming cities meetings, and along with that would be my agenda. And I used to get that about every 2 weeks. I set my calendar kind of by it, and I could always stay ahead of things. I had to remember that I'm out of town, and then went, oh shucks, I got an email for a link. And so you have to do a whole bunch of last minute stuff. What happened to those old notices? Oh, and by the way, I did sign up for my neighborhood email.
I did see your email come through, actually,
That
yes.
way.
As far as the meeting notification, I just have to claim that's my fault, as I am kind of stumbling into taking this over for somebody else who took it over for somebody else. I honestly just dropped the ball on that one, so apologies. And thank you for reminding me about the Zoom link today. I appreciate that, because that kind of saved me on that one, so.
Well, I mean, I can see that, especially with all the updates, but do I have to go back and re-sign up for all the meetings again that I used to get notices for? I used to get our chamber, our CIC, our parks, our historic, and it would just come every 2 weeks as emails from our city.
That's actually something I'm gonna be talking about in the website presentation. So,
Okay, perfect.
so I mean, short answer, yes, but there's more options with it.
Okay, but so the old ones have been canceled then in the meantime?
I can't answer that directly, because part of it, the old way is a function of something that our city recorder managed, versus this is, the new way is gonna be a process that'll automate through the new website. So I can't 100% answer your question regarding the prior way, and if that's still good, but I can find out for you.
Okay. Well, it's not good, but will it be available? But if it's gonna be available on your new website, fine.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Matt, for making yourself available and
Sure,
answering
thank
all
you.
our questions.
You're welcome. Anytime.
Okay, the next subject, of course, will be Jared's presentation of the new city website.
All right,
And,
thank you.
I personally have a whole bunch of questions and concerns.
Well, I've got a brief presentation, and then I anticipated probably more questions than that. Hopefully, we won't take up too much time. I need to remember to share the screen. I think it already is, so hopefully hopefully everybody in TV land can see. And David Knoll obviously is not with me tonight doing the presentation, but I do want to say David gets a ton of credit for the work on this website and the process. This was something that has been going on for a year and a half. A lot of work, a lot of planning goes on to a website such as this, and when you're looking at a few thousand pages that had to be transferred over, there's a lot of things to go over on that. There's a lot of things that pop up. So we're continually working on it. While I say we have a new website, I will never, ever say the website's done. Because even when everything is working, it's not done because we're going to be changing things. And probably about the time it's done, it's time for a new website. So that'll be continuing upgrading and so forth. But again, I wanted to give David a ton of credit because he's been leading this charge the whole way. And I just kind of came in at the final leg of it for the sprint, said, go ahead and give me the baton and I'll run it through. Some of the main focuses on the new website were to ensure ADA compliance for various things in terms of vision issues, hearing issues, if there's any audio and so forth, colors and whatnot. There's a lot of things that need to be considered on a website that weren't as necessarily as prevalent at the, when the prior site was made. So that was one of the main things. Ease of use for residents. That was basically our goal, is to try to get all the information to a user in 3 clicks or less. Not always possible. There's a lot of sublayers of things, and it can become complicated, but our goal is to try to minimize the number of clicks any user has to do to get to content. Mobile friendly was another goal. As you probably know, the vast majority of website traffic is now coming from smartphones. And if your website is not mobile friendly, it not only frustrates the user, but Google gets a little upset with you as well. And nobody wants to upset Google because that gets scary. And then increased opportunity for public engagement. That was one of the goals from the City Commission during their goal setting session in the 21-23 biennium, kind of confirmed at the most recent goal setting as well. When a user comes to the website, the first thing they're going to see, this is the first, what loads. We've got our global navigation up top, kind of those main links that most often people go to. The I want to, which is, get a permit, start a business, get a job, so forth. Your government has links to all the different boards and commissions like CIC, like the City Commission, departments. Obviously, that's kind of self-explanatory. Doing business, links to some of the community development types of things and business licensing again and so forth. And our community is a lot of the city information. You will see sometimes a link here that's also in this one, but that's because people might look for it in either place. And again, we're trying to make it as easy as possible for somebody to find something. So we don't want to be like, if you're not here, it's not going to be found. We want to make it as possible, easy to find as possible. The bottom row, you'll see what we call those are graphic links. Those are, by looking at our Google Analytics, the most commonly clicked links on the website, things that people are looking for the most. So we put those front and center, they load real quick right up there. People can quickly get to what they're looking for. We have a standard search bar in the top right. And then in the bottom right, you'll see Ellie, who is our new AI chatbot. That is an interesting little thing, and we'll go into that in a little bit. Scroll down a little bit more, you'll see some more links, some more of the most common links that are selected. Those links are very easily switched. So if something becomes more popular for whatever reason, like if it's election season or if it's fire season or there's alerts or something, we can change those links as necessary to, again, get the most necessary information front and center for a user. Beneath that, we have our news and updates, both press releases and alerts and so forth. Those are, again, customizable every time I send out a press release or some other notice. That carousel goes and people can scroll through the carousel after it updates. This is Ellie that I mentioned. Ellie is, well, we kind of went for a little elevator branding pun with Ellie Vader. They let me do that, they won't let me do Darth Vader. But as I said, it's an AI-assisted tool, and it was going to continually learn the more that it's used. So both in terms of, like, as a user, if they get an answer and it's not really relevant, they can downvote it, which pops up on a dashboard for me to see, and I can see where should it have gone or whatnot. Where there's going to be an ongoing training is there was just no way for us to anticipate some of the questions we get. And some of the spellings of some of the questions we get. There have been a lot of things that just we never would have thought of and so forth that maybe aren't even necessarily relevant to the city, but a person doesn't know. So I have to kind of figure out what we're going to do with that type of thing. But it is going to be a really great tool, and it keeps getting better. We're excited to see what that does. The community engagement functions. One of the primary ones here is community voice. And what this is, it's almost like, if you remember discussion forums online, kind of way back when, it's very similar to that. What we can do is the city can create this, what the platform calls initiatives, but it's essentially a topic. Like the top one you see right there is comment on the industrial commercial FIP. The stormwater has to do a 30-day review period on this report that they come out with. This was a great way for people to be able to do that. We've got a link to the report and they can actually comment on there and provide public feedback. Community event ideas. A user can go in, come up with a community event idea of their own, put it in there. Other users can comment on it and get a discussion flowing. And then we can add any more of these types of things on there as the ideas pop forth or there's a need for it or a request for it. But it's basically just a chance for the community to converse in this setting, and we can monitor and answer there as well.
What are the figures?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Go back to that one.
the little people.
What are the little people?
Oh, okay, the little people, the top one is basically an idea that's posted under the initiative. And then the bottom little people is number of comments. Right now, everything's pretty much at 0 because I have not marketed this at all because it just recently went live and I'm waiting to kind of do this demo that I'm doing tonight at a few other places before we really start hitting that hard. But I anticipate a fair amount of use. I don't know how popular it's going to be, but I think there'll be a fair amount of use to that.
People understand what it is.
Yeah, that's my hope, to give people a chance just to kind of converse on there.
Are we gonna be able to maybe have a different associations give you information that other people can comment on, so we can get to our people?
I mean, yeah, that's actually something that you could do there, as you could create an account as the association and post it in there yourself. So that way you can have the conversations instead of going through a middle person like me or whatever. But yeah, so kind of put you in the driver's seat on that. To do that, somebody's gonna have to create an account with the website. It's free. But there's some additional benefits to that and being able to use community voice. Another one of the aspects is, and Dee Dee, this is what you were talking to, is subscribing to website content. In addition to receiving emails when any of this content is updated, somebody can also sign up to have a text alert as well, or instead. And then, so right now we have all the, you can sign up for these alerts for any of the meetings, for the calendar of events, for news, for press releases and so forth. And again, this is a function that I can apply to almost any element of the website. So if I hear from people that they want to subscribe to updates on X thing, I can apply that function to the website and people will then be able to add that to their subscription list. But under their account,
If we're already signed up though, we didn't have to re-sign up, do we?
that's what I have to find out from Jacob. I'm not entirely certain on that one. And yeah, that's still learning the two different processes as we move forward. Another function is opinion polls. This is something that, just a very simple, little thing that we can put together. I just put together just a sample guy here. But again, just a chance for the commission or the city or whatever to answer a simple question, put up some options, and people can vote the way they want. We can kind of gauge public interest on a topic. So it's simple, easy, but again, another way for the people to interact with the website. That's my quick rundown, and I anticipate a ton of questions.
Oh, my goodness. Carla has her sign up, so I'll let her start.
I'll stick to one because I'm sure other people have things to say, but is there going to be kind of I realize the city acknowledges the historic properties. Is there going to be kind of like a fun little map or anything acknowledging the historic properties of Oregon City and maybe some pioneer history of Oregon City as well?
The former site that you saw for historic properties on the old website is actually still what we're using right now because there's a technology bridge that wasn't connecting, but we're working on a solution for that is going to be pretty, actually, I think really cool once that comes about, that it will be a little bit more, I don't want to say interactive, but a little more flashy, honestly, and it'll provide kind of a new updated element for that. So I'm looking forward to that coming aboard. We have a year with this element, this temporary fix to make that happen, but hopefully it won't take that long, but you know how technology can be.
Exciting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I have a whole bunch of stuff.
Fire away.
If you go to your government, under Citizens Involvement Committee, list the offices, it does not list the vice chair. It lists the chair and the secretary.
And these are things that I need to, I mean, we needed these notifications because
And
it's
then-
interesting, the stuff that got transferred over and the things that didn't come along or whatever, and it's, you don't know what you don't know until fortunately somebody points it out, so we'll add that.
That's why I'm gonna be very vociferous this evening. Under board seats, there's no logical order of the list, and there are several missing neighborhood associations.
Is there? Okay.
The missing ones are Gaffney Lane.
Bob, you have to click over a different button at the top there. So the one that it's selected on only shows certain ones. If you click on the next one, it shows all of them.
Oh, okay.
So, like, I've actually got a screenshot of that right here with some updates.
Thank you, I'll do that.
Thank you, because I would have been very confused when I looked at that.
Under our community, under the neighborhood associations, and this is a carryover from the last, system. It lists the CIC reps as primary and alternate. I'd like to have that changed.
Okay,
There is no such thing as an alternate member anymore.
okay,
And that has been changed for like 4 years now.
okay.
And let's see. I noticed in our community, the community event calendar, that our meeting of tonight is not listed.
It is listed on the, if you go to the homepage and you look at the meetings calendar, it is there. And I know that because I added it last.
Why wouldn't it be on that calendar when there are other meetings also on that calendar? If I have to go to 2 or 3 different calendars to find a meeting, that doesn't make any sense.
That's because, no, that is an interesting point. I think there's gonna be, I need to nail down the process on that, on are meetings going to be on the events, or is it only gonna be events, or are we just gonna merge the two together? It's actually, as I've been watching this unfold a little bit, it's a discussion that I've got on my list in my office to have as we figure out, because, you know, as I said, there's gonna be continued tweaks on this. But
Yeah, in my opinion, if you have a city calendar, it should be all-inclusive, you know,
the problem is, I've heard both. I've heard from some people who want to see just the meetings or just the events, and then others who do want to see all-inclusive,
but
so.
don't listen to anybody else but me.
Oh, okay, I will mark that down in my
That would solve all
notes.
your problems.
That makes my life easier then.
Let's see. On Downtown Oregon City Association, Jonathan Stone is listed as the executive director. He's been gone for a long, long time.
Honestly, sometimes it pulled from pages that were defunct years ago, and I'm not sure why that,
Yeah.
That happened.
Well, it moved over from the existing system, and the existing system was not correct. That's
okay.
what happened. And then, let's see here. I was trying to find a list of all the neighborhood associations in one screen.
there is a page, because I've looked at it and checked it a couple times, because I realized we had old contacts on there as well that I updated. I'll show you after the meeting, and we'll see what we can figure out on that.
And then also in each of the individual neighborhoods, I've not been able to find any of their bylaws.
Is that something that was on the prior site?
Yes.
Okay. I will look into that.
And then, I was looking at some maps, and I was looking at so much of it, I can't remember which, but in the individual neighborhood association maps, some businesses are listed on those maps. And I'd like to know how the businesses got listed to begin with. And then, some of that information is incorrect. I was looking, of course, at our Park Place Neighborhood Association. Right about in the middle, in the residential area, there's listed as a business, McDonald's Goracle, whatever in the heck that is. They're,
Interesting.
do you know, Steve, if any?
Doesn't mean anything to me.
Goracle in Park Place, it's news to us. So, you know, if the neighborhood association maps have businesses listed, then they should pay for that listing.
I'm not sure where that data is pulling from or
Okay, we'll
anything, so
find
I've
out-
got to dig
find
into
out
that to see
because-
how that works.
Yeah, because it's not all inclusive, like in that particular map, Steve's Market, which is the main business in Park Place,
Yeah.
is not
It's
on
not
there.
there anymore.
Well, they're gone, that's right, they burned down, didn't they? Yeah, forgot about that.
So
Okay.
they're.
Well, it's a good thing they're not there then.
Market. Here's the list.
I think that's all I had.
You remind me something, Bob. One thing, I'm looking at the CIC on the city website, and I'm looking at the pictures. And the pictures I see are mainly staff people. The city manager's on the CIC page, and so is, and now, I know Mike Mitchell, he was the chair of Codfield, I think, at one point, so that, you know, makes sense, Mike Mitchell. And then there's an ex-city employee no longer there, and there's none of us, the CIC, on those pictures really, other than the tent. So it'd be really cool to get some pictures of like the people who serve on here.
If you provide me with photos, I'd be more than happy to swap them in.
We used to have some, I'll look.
Go ahead, Dennis.
I'm looking at it here on my little iPad, and I think it's pretty robust, and I think credit to you and what you have to take on. I think what we have to do, all of us have to like compile what we need to give over to a system and putting it in and making the necessary, I think that's what he's pointing to. And for my one, when I was looking at it before it came tonight, my email was different, so I changed it, so I think it's editable very easily. So,
Okay.
yeah, so I found that to be easy. So I think there'll probably be a number of things as we provide more information that will both assist you and make us all happy that we got all this new data.
And again, like I said, that's my goal is with a few thousand pages and
Yeah,
untold amounts of data coming through, there's gonna be errors. I'd rather be told something twice than not at all, and I'm not gonna know if it's wrong unless I don't know, so please email me, and if there's something goofy, we'll fix it.
well, kudos to you. I
Thank
think
you.
it's more extensive than the last go-around, and I think we'll come to enjoy it.
Awesome, thank you.
It'll be very useful.
It was a joint team that the city, departments had people working on this in each department, and for a lot of people, it was not something, you know, they're not webmasters, and they, you know, learned a lot and worked hard to make this happen, so it was a phenomenal effort from the staff. Yes.
Sorry.
It's just, it's a huge undertaking. And as with any new system, there's gonna be glitches. I personally have been through 2 business computer changeouts, system changeouts, and, both of them, you know, the salespeople said, problem-free. But as you go through the system, help Jared and the IT people by informing them of the things that you find. They may have an answer for you, like I got some answers tonight, and then they may not be aware of some of the things that are in there that need to be corrected. So be patient with the system, keep learning it as you go along, and I'm sure that it'll smooth out within the next few years.
Hopefully sooner than that, but yeah.
I got a comment.
Yes.
You know, our old webpage was way ahead of its time when it was originally produced, and what they're doing today is way ahead of its time compared to all the other cities and stuff around, and the type of information that we're going to be able to get out of this, and more communications with our neighborhoods associations, so we can get more people involved and keep up the good work.
And actually, that just reminded me, actually, I can set that up. That'd be another way that people can get notifications about the meetings, is we can set that up in a system on the neighborhood association pages, and there's ways I can do that. Sorry, my brain's going. I'm thinking out loud. I'm sorry. We'll make this work, but there's another opportunity there.
Write it down so you don't forget.
Oh, it's already gone.
Anybody? Oh, Steve, go ahead.
So you were mentioning the, I want to, your government departments, those, and I try and get that on the homepage, and it comes up and disappears.
Interesting. What browser are you on? Is that a Droid or?
It's a Droid.
Okay. Let's get together after the meeting so I can kind of pull down some specs and see what's going on. It's one of the joys of web design is there's 40,000 different devices and browsers and everything that you think you fix it
once
for
you
one
get
and
it
then you
working
bring
on-
2 more.
Once you get it working on this browser, I'm going to change my browser.
Well, I'll be sure to work very hard on changing that.
Anybody else? Okay, well, pass our thanks on to IT for all the hard work that they've put in. I mean, this is a huge undertaking.
Yeah, David has definitely put on some muscle carrying the weight of that, so.
Okay, let's see here. Okay, the next item, well, is public comments, but I don't see any out here. Are there any on Zoom?
We do
Okay.
not have any, no.
So our next subject is approval of previous minutes. We'll have questions or corrections or comments or a motion to approve.
I motion we approve the minutes that have been presented to us.
I'll second it.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve the listed minutes. Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes on, not unanimously.
What?
Who was it that voted no, just so I make sure that gets captured?
Nobody voted no.
I thought somebody said no.
It was a
It
late.
was a late aye. It was
Oh, I'm sorry,
Denise
okay.
voting yes.
Oh, okay.
Oh, indeed.
Okay, staff liaison updates.
Just 2 quick updates for you. The engagement specialist position that was vacated by Emma, that will be your full-time liaison once that's elected. That position closed 2 weeks ago. We're moving forward on the process. I'm hoping to have some candidates I've moved some to the next round. I'm hoping to have a few to do interviews with in a couple weeks and hopefully have this person on board sooner than later. So that's moving forward. And then we had gotten a request for a Zoom account for the neighborhood associations. I came today completely intending to have that account ready to go. For some reason, Zoom was not sending me the email with the code that let me confirm I'm a human and was creating a new account. So there will be one whenever Zoom starts working, and I will get all that information to everybody so that you will have a new a Zoom account that is not ran by one of our residents, and the city's pay for it will come out of the CIC budget. And those are my 2 quick updates.
Thank you.
Okay, then now we'll go to the roundtable. We'll start with Kanima Linda.
We just had our meeting, and that was in September. We had it at the library. We're very pleased and happy to be there. Aquila was one of our guest speakers. We enjoyed her, and we're still working on the cemetery. We had a rousing conversation about the cemetery, and also we were working a little bit on a Halloween party. We had a great trick-or-treating event in Kanima last year, and we're hoping to keep it this year, perhaps expand on it next year. And that's all. I think we'll be having a steering committee coming out in October.
Dennis?
I agree.
Caulfield, Dan?
We just had our meeting, we had a 29% increase in people that showed up for our meeting. One of our guest speakers was the Clackamas County Clerk that handled any election, so that was a crowd pleaser. People had a lot of questions for her. So we're keep marketing, and we used our big postcard again, and just bringing people in, and we're want to move over with some of the cities, contacting our new members in the area, the new people that are coming in. I think we got at least a couple hundred apartment complexes going in, and people are filling them up now, so. And I'd like to, if we do a new mailing, I probably won't do any mailings this year other than getting in the November 8th thing, if we get the whole thing for the $1,000 thing together, and that'd be it for this year for us. That's about it.
Carla, Elyville?
We have a steering coming up on October 10th. We have a meeting, a general meeting, November 14th. And we're gonna have a steering soon, and nothing new. Our last meeting was slower because it was really good weather. And when we have really good weather, people don't usually come to the meetings as much, so. Nothing new otherwise.
Dee Dee?
She left.
Hillendale, Josh?
We have our general meeting tomorrow at the bus barn, so that'll be good, 6:30. And have mental health awareness 101 and police and fire. Yep. And then in later October, we are going to be doing a meeting with the courthouse construction team, and 24th. Yep.
Can you read all that?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
October 24th, 7 p.m. at the Development Services building up there at Red Soils.
Room 115. In case anybody's out there wants to
Yeah,
know.
that's what we're up to.
Sarah, do you have anything to add?
Just the room 115, I added it.
You just butted right in there. Good for you. Denise McLoughlin?
Hello. We had a meeting last month, and then we followed that up with a cleanup on 7th Street, and then followed that up with an ice cream social at the library park. And this is the first time we've done it, so we did what we could do, and we had a really good time. And we have a steering committee meeting this Thursday. We've been meeting, let's see, Jared, if you'd like to update that on your website, we have been meeting at the Baptist Church, and we also include a Zoom possibility. We're hoping to be getting back to the library soon. That's it.
Park Place, Steve?
So our next general meeting is October 16th. We'll be meeting at Park Place Church at 6:30, also via Zoom. Speaking will be Pete Walter and Captain Pagano. So we'll be discussing Park Place Crossing. What a concept.
Rivercrest, Emily?
Not a whole lot of updates since last time. Our vice chair unfortunately has a conflict with her daughter's PTA meetings on the meeting dates that we have had on Thursdays. So we're kind of running low on steering committee. Yeah, if anyone is listening from Rivercrest, we definitely could use more consistent membership. And I'm currently chair. I'm also on 2 other Oregon City committees, and I don't know if I'll have the bandwidth to like keep that going, just myself. So definitely looking for more support there. I think we had 4 or 5 meetings this year, which was more than Rivercrest has had since COVID. So, you know, we're on a good roll there, but definitely looking for more active participants. I think, you know, most meetings we had between like, you know, 6 to 12 people. So decent membership, but not a lot of consistency within those attendees. So definitely looking for more support.
Okay, thank you, Emily. Commissioner Morrow.
Well, thank you, Chair LaSalle. First of all, I was glad to hear that we're still looking at getting a meeting with you, me and the mayor. She had talked to me on Friday, I believe, and that was the first I had heard that it was still pushing to move forward. And so I'm glad to hear that it will, and I'll be looking forward to hearing about that. The big thing that I wanted to advertise to you all is the Youth Advisory Commission is putting on a mental health fair. It is this Saturday, October 7th, from 2 to 5 at the Pioneer Center. There are going to be a lot of great resources there. It's put on by the students, and it's aimed at students, but it's a community event. Obviously, mental health awareness is something that's a big issue, not just in the nation, but Oregon consistently ranks very highly in our in the way that we deal with this. And by highly, I mean not well. So this is something that I'm really proud of the students for putting at the forefront, and you are all, of course, invited to attend, as well as people you may know, whether you are dealing with something yourself or you just want more resources for people, because we all do know someone who's going through something. I'm glad, thank you, Bob, again, for having Matt come in at the last second to get some clarity on that. In practice, the budget increase of 8,000 is going to be there, and I'm also glad that we were able to work as a commission to increase the FTE from half to full for the community engagement specialist position, which is another thing, while not reflected in the budget, is something that's dedicated to the CIC, as well as the neighborhood associations and community volunteers in this community. And I really appreciate the conversations that we're having about how to improve marketing. Jared has done an excellent job at reaching more people. We just have to realize that we have to be a little more creative when it comes to reaching out to our community and doing business as usual. That's not something that's unique to the CIC. Every city organization is having to become more creative with the way that we interact with citizens, often citizens who don't want to care about something until something terrible happens, and then they're finally paying attention. And so I'm really glad that we're being proactive as a city, as demonstrated by the website, as demonstrated by all the different ways we're trying to communicate about trying to get people involved on the front end of things rather than on the back end of things when it's harder to affect change in your community. There was a comment made about budgets, obviously, and the assistant city manager position, which I looked up, was with the upper end at 164,000. And it's important to note there was a comment about averages in Oregon that, oddly enough, even though we're about 40,000 residents, that puts us in the classification of being a pretty large city in Oregon. There are more out of the 241 cities in Oregon, there are more cities under 10,000 probably than there are over 40,000 like us, or where we're around. And so when we're talking about an average salary for a position where the citizenry is significantly lower than it would be in a city like Oregon City, I think that is an important thing to factor in when we're talking about the upper end of this salary being 164,000. But for anyone who is watching those budget meetings, this is something that is very important for me, is making sure that we're not spending money where we don't have to be spending it, and we're not increasing taxes when we don't need to do it. And that was something that I pushed really hard for, and I appreciate the comments that were made about that. And so that's really all that I have here. I just really want to push you to think about attending this mental health fair and supporting our students and showing out in force. So thank you.
I might just mention, I just thought about it, was if we eliminated a few of the consultants the city is in the habit of using frequently, it would easily pay for that assistant manager's.
Well, if the state stopped requiring us to do all of this crazy stuff that we're not usually supposed to be doing, then that would be a great thing, I think.
Yeah. Okay, I have, let's see here. Actually, the only thing I have is, well, I did send an email to the mayor and each of the commissioners about my concern, continuing concern about the acoustics in the city hall chambers, in the new city hall commission chambers. The last meeting I went to, I had high hopes that it had been improved. It's still pitiful. I won't say it, but it was a highly positioned person in the city tell me that they are still having hearing problems up at the dais. I know that personally because I sit on the planning commission and we sit in those same chairs. And I couldn't hear, of course I have a hearing problem, but even before that, I have to use those earphones that are provided. The person that did respond to me in response to my concerns said that those hearing aids, those earphones are available, but there aren't enough available for everybody in the audience. My suggestion, and I'm going to bring it up at the city commission meeting Wednesday, is that all the meetings that are held currently in that building be moved back here, where nobody has a problem with understanding what's being said.
And everyone will fit.
And it's not like the great throngs are gonna fill this room. You know, you look at the average meeting up there, there's maybe 4 or 5 people, guests. It makes no sense, and it's a disservice to the citizens of the city of Oregon City to continue to have those meetings up there when not only the citizens can't hear what's going on, but city staff cannot hear what's going on, and anybody sitting up in the dais cannot understand what's going on. It's almost criminal, in my personal opinion. I could really get involved in this, but I won't. I'm just going to say, I recommended that every meetings be returned to this building.
On your note, Bob, the other thing, I'm also a planning commissioner, and I was told by the audio guy, I know that my husband kind of has a hearing problem, so I've over the years talked a little louder, that I am loud enough for the audience to hear, but the problem is I'm hurting the audio guy's ears at the police station to be able to talk loud enough for people to understand me. That's what's happening, and that, you know, I don't want to hurt any of our support people's ears, but people can hear me because I talk loud in the microphone. So I don't know what to say. If I'm hurting the audio guy's ears to talk at a normal tone at the police station, there's a problem.
Well, it's not as if the problem can't be solved. I've given examples of concert halls, opera houses. In my personal experience as an officer in the Army, there's a building down at Fort Benning, Georgia, which is the home of the infantry. Students come from all over the world to that fort to learn infantry tactics. They have a building called Infantry Hall, and it has a classroom in it which probably holds 300 students. A nice stage up there. We're giving instruction classes on things that, if are not done properly, could cost soldiers' lives. That's serious. Everything that is presented can be heard throughout the entire classroom, without question. So there are solutions. And if the city can afford to hire an assistant city manager, they sure as hell can afford to get that meeting acoustics corrected. Sure.
I just want to say that there actually is the process of getting proposals on solutions they'll meet all the needs. And so, I mean, the process is ongoing and it is happening, and it's something the city is addressing.
You know, with all due respect, Jared, I've been hearing that same excuse since that building was put in, and I'm gonna be very rude when I say this, is that excuses are just like assholes. Everybody has one.
Well, I can't answer to anything that happened before 8 months ago, but I can say I'm on the email threads now, and they're looking at entire solutions versus cost-saving Band-Aids. So
Okay, thank you.
I am cautiously optimistic that in as soon as possible, it's gonna be much better.
Well, we can only hope.
I can't help but stop laughing. I was gonna say, I'm talking to Dee Dee too, and she has a hearing problem, and it's really hard on her, and it doesn't work with her hearing aids or anything. The one thing I can say also, I was gonna mention something here. It's just, yeah, like, it hasn't been fixed. And the thing that I think of is our taxpayer dollars went towards this for public comment to be heard. And the problem is I've noticed some things phase out when they're really important. And that's, you know, that's public testimony, and that's super important, and we paid for it. So, you know, we should have something that works at this point.
We're still paying for it on every utility bill.
Yeah.
Well, all we can hope for is the best, I guess. Does anybody else have any comments? This meeting is adjourned.